They say history remembers victories, but sometimes it remembers something else, moments that shouldn't have happened at all. November 25th, 1177. The air is dry, heavy, waiting. Somewhere in the distance, thousands of hooves grind against the earth. A low thunder that never stops. Dust rises like a wall, swallowing the horizon until sky and ground blur into one endless gray. And standing against it is a boy, 16 years old. His body is already failing him. Beneath layers of armor and cloth, his skin is breaking apart. His fingers no longer respond the way they should. His face is hidden behind a silver mask, not for ceremony, but because what lies beneath it is too much for others to look at. This is Baldwin, a king who can't feel pain anymore. Ahead of him, an army that shouldn't lose, tens of thousands strong, experienced, confident, victorious in battle after battle, led by a commander who has never known defeat. Behind Baldwin, only a few hundred knights, exhausted, outnumbered beyond reason. Every calculation says the same thing. This ends here. But history doesn't always follow calculations, because sometimes someone refuses to accept them. The world Baldwin inherited was already collapsing. Jerusalem wasn't a shining city of glory. It was fragile, cracked, barely holding together after years of pressure, war, and fear. And Baldwin himself? He wasn't meant to rule. Leprosy had already marked him, slowly taking everything from him piece by piece. Strength, movement, control. People like him weren't supposed to wear crowns. They were supposed to disappear. But he didn't, and that alone made him dangerous. Because when someone has nothing left to lose, fear stops working the way it should. And fear is what most armies rely on. Saladin understood fear. He understood power. He had built an empire through discipline, patience, and precision. He didn't rush. He didn't gamble. He made the correct decision every time. And that's exactly what brought him here. Because when his army crossed into Baldwin's lands, it wasn't reckless. It was perfect. They moved fast, spread out, took what they needed, controlled the territory without resistance. There was no reason to expect a fight. No reason to think the enemy would come out to meet them. Especially not like this. Especially not led by a dying king. But Baldwin wasn't thinking about survival. He was thinking about something else entirely. If he stayed behind the walls, the city might last longer. But everything around it would burn.
Village.
Fields. People who had no walls to hide behind. He understood what that meant. It wasn't a question of winning. It was a question of what kind of ending he would choose. So he made his decision. And once he made it, he didn't hesitate. The march itself should have broken them. Exhaustion. Heat. Fear creeping in with every mile. Men whispering to each other, wondering if they were riding toward glory or just riding toward death. But every time doubt started to rise, they looked at him, a king who shouldn't even be able to sit upright, still leading from the front, still moving forward, still not stopping. And something about that changed them, because fear doesn't disappear, transforms. And now, it was turning into something sharper, something louder, something that pushed them forward instead of pulling them back. When Saladin finally realized what was happening, it was already too late. His army wasn't ready. Not fully. Not organized. They had spread out, confident in their control. And now that confidence became a weakness. Because war isn't just about strength. It's about timing. And Baldwin had chosen the one moment when strength didn't matter as much as shock. The moment the charge began, everything shifted. Not slowly. Not gradually. All at once. The ground shook. Horses surged forward. Steel lowered. And a force that should have been too small to matter suddenly became impossible to ignore. Because they weren't charging like men expecting to survive. They were charging like men who had already accepted death. And decided to take something with them. That changes everything. Because when someone stops fearing the outcome, they become unpredictable. And unpredictability breaks even the strongest systems. The first impact wasn't just physical. It was psychological. A line that should have held didn't. A formation that should have stabilized collapsed. Confusion spread faster than commands could fix it. And once confusion starts, it spreads like fire. Men look left, look right, see movement where there shouldn't be movement, see retreat where there shouldn't be retreat. And suddenly, the idea of defeat becomes real. Not because it should be, but because it feels like it is. And once that feeling takes hold, it's already too late. Baldwin didn't slow down. He couldn't feel his body breaking, so he kept going, kept pushing, kept driving forward in a way no one expected. And the men behind him followed, because in that moment, he wasn't just a king. He was proof. Proof that the impossible could happen. Proof that the outcome wasn't decided yet. Proof that fear wasn't the only thing controlling the battlefield anymore. And once that belief spreads, numbers stop matching the way they used to. The army that had come expecting victory started thinking about survival, started thinking about escape, started thinking about getting away from something they couldn't explain. And that's when it ended. Not with a single moment, not with a clear line, but with collapse. The kind that happens from the inside out. By the time it was over, the battlefield was silent, or as silent as something like that can be. Bodies scattered, armor broken, the dust settling slowly over everything that had just happened. And in the middle of it,